All right, welcome back to the RAHAB podcast. This is a long-form conversational podcast, and each episode will feature a guest with a unique experience and insight regarding the issue of sex trafficking. But before we dive into that, I've got to tell everybody listening about this amazing celebration we have going on. This is actually the Adult Safe House birthday. It's in November. We're going to be celebrating 5 years of RAHAB's Adult Safe House being open. That's 5 years. And I think there's been over 100 women that have come through the program. I remember being at RAHAB 5 years ago and it being this monumental, almost impossible task to get this house, to make sure it was beautiful, to make sure it felt like a home, to make sure it was safe, to make sure we were offering programming that we believe was the best and the most cutting edge. And now to know that it's been 5 years and we've only been on this upward trajectory, we've only continued to learn and hone it and get better, to be able to look back and say, wow, it's been running for 5 years it is a reason to celebrate. And so we've got this month-long celebration going on. It's called Multiply Hope. And for everybody listening, you can go right now to our website, rahab-ministries.org. Our entire homepage has been taken over by Multiply Hope. And that, again, is the celebration of 5 years at RAHAB's Adult Safe House. This whole month, we'll be telling stories from the Safe House. We'll be telling more information about RAHAB's Adult Safe House. We'll be talking about plans for the future. You want to get on RAHAB's Facebook, which is just simply RAHAB Ministries. You want to follow us on Instagram, which is also just RAHAB Ministries. You can jump on our newsletter just by signing up on our website, and you'll be sent some additional stories about the Safe House over the last 5 years over the course of this month-long celebration. And over this month, our request is that you would really consider partnering with RAHAB financially, that you would consider giving a monthly gift of $55 per month. Now, for some people, that's a drop in the bucket, and you could actually commit to more. Some people, that seems extremely just impossible. And so 55 is our ask. But if you want to be connected and you can give less than that per month, a committed monthly gift, you have no idea what that does for not just for RAHAB, but for the women that we get to serve, for the kids that we get to serve, to know that we can project out support and we can plan additional funding based on projected and committed support. It changes a lot of things at RAHAB. And so whether you can give 55, if you can give less, if you can give more, our ask is that you would partner with us on a monthly basis. So tune in for all the Multiply Hope celebration over the whole month. I'm really looking forward to it. Some of the stories, just hearing them myself, I've forgotten them because it's just been a few years and there's so many things going on. So it's nice to look back and celebrate. Now, in the spirit of celebrating the Adult Safe House, this month's conversation on this podcast episode 5, is with RAHAB's director of the Adult Safe House, Elaine Oliver. And Elaine, I have watched you provide such consistent level of love and care and professionalism and excellence to the women at the Safe House, regardless of how you feel. Like, sometimes it sucks and it's hard and it's heavy and it's all day. Like, you work at the house, like you're there and you're invested and connected in these women's lives, and they come in and they go out, and they come in and they go out, and some stay long and some barely stay at all. And to have little glimpses at our staff meetings or at our leadership meetings of you being real and honest in the midst of all of that, it's encouraging to me. It's inspiring to the team. And you are the realist. Like, you don't play. And
I don't.
And I know that we've heard so many times at different trainings, and we've said it ourselves, is that if you're going to serve people with complex trauma, or you're going to serve people that have been given up on and abandoned and broken and used and mistreated, you have to be real.
Yep.
If you're going to come in there and try to have a front, or try to be fake, or try to act like it doesn't affect you, it's just going to be artificial, and you're not going to build any kind of meaningful relationship to the point where people will trust you. Anybody. That's not just unique to the Adult Safe House. Correct. And so when I watch you, it's so clear that you are committed to this work. You're called to this work. You bring that love. You bring that excellence. You don't let what's going on with Elaine affect how you love, affect how you serve, and affect how you approach your job. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
And over the course of this hour, I just really want people to get an understanding of what the safe house is really like. So that's our goal. It's my long intro, and I'm just get out of the way and let you do your thing. I know that when we were starting the safe house 5 years ago, and you weren't on RAHAB's radar back then.
Nope.
And there was all types of crazy going on at the safe house when it first started. But I remember someone in the community who was an amazing partner. They really helped us make this thing a reality. A couple of years later, we went back to them, and we were sharing with them the struggle of having the safe house, the struggle of offering the continued support there, just how it's almost like the starting line when a woman gets to the safe house. And that was a complete paradigm shift for this person. They thought that when someone got to the safe house, that was the finish line. Hooray, they made it. They're there. Now everything's going to be good but
wouldn't that be nice?
It's really
I
not.
would love that.
It's not that way.
No.
And so that's what I want. I want to get into stuff like that today. I want to be able to peel back the veil, peel back the curtain a little bit, and really share all of the reality of what goes on in a safe house, and let the truth about it actually speak the loudest, and actually show people why I'm so confident saying that we should be celebrating 5 years of this thing going on. So one thing that I want to just kick this off with, and we'll dive into the deep parts, but we have a culture of celebration. And for anybody who's never heard the term joy jar, I don't know if it's just unique to us and Restore Court or whatever, but at different areas of RAHAB, we have a jar that we put tiny little notes in that are reasons for us to celebrate. They're reasons to have joy. And they could seem like the smallest, tiniest things, but if you don't write them down and put them in this jar, you're going to forget them. And so we try to put all these little moments in a jar so that at the end of the month or at the end of the year, we can pour them out and read them. And if you do this in your life, you'll find really quickly how many things you actually forget that are worth celebrating. And so, Elaine, what was the most recent thing that you either put in the joy jar or found it a reason to celebrate at the safe house?
It was just recently. We have a current resident that is doesn't engage much in group settings, whether the women are sitting around the living room or even in group therapies. She tends to be a little quiet. But the other day...
Shut out or there, but just quiet?
Present, but quiet.
Okay.
Yes. So when the women... We always do dinner together. The women do dinner together. And they always gather around the island. And before anybody eats, somebody prays. And so usually the question is asked, so who's going to pray tonight? And this resident said, I'll pray. And and so as a staff, we're all just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe
you all like giving each other side eyes, like, oh wow,
yeah,
look
like,
who it is.
That is huge, and that speaks so much to how safe and comfortable she feels there, and that's one of the main things that we find joy in when a woman finds her voice or when she feels comfortable stepping out of her comfort zone. That is a good picture of what safety looks like. You know what I mean? She feels safe to do that. So that was amazing. We just were all just, I can't believe that happened.
And so that's something that could easily just be missed.
Oh, for sure. I don't think, unless you are living and seeing these women day after day, it's hard to miss those little victories. And that was a little victory maybe to a person that would look in and not know. But for us, knowing this resident and knowing her, just the way she is, her personality, her whatever, that was huge. And we were so happy. We were just all grinning from ear to ear.
And so is that something that you just kind of watch and let her grow? Or is that something that you affirm when you find, or is that something you just kind of let happen?
It just kind of depends on the situation. Like, I wasn't present when this happened, so a staff member was there. And so sometimes I think you have to have discernment in that moment. So sometimes it's okay to call that out. Other times it's like a little afterwards, like, hey, that was pretty cool that you did that. Or sometimes you just kind of let it go. You just kind of have to discern whether it's appropriate to say something like that. One thing that we do encourage, and we do tell the women when we see situations where they're using their voice, we always encourage that. We always say, wow, good for you for using your voice, whether they're talking about a need that they have or praying out loud.
Do you ever have people who live in the house who have no problem using their voice?
Oh, yes. We have women that were like, oh, you don't have to use your voice so much now. No, yeah, there's the big but even in that, they're encouraged. I'm so glad that you're using your voice, but then that's also teachable. But maybe when you're using your voice, you can present it this way, So yeah, that's all teachable stuff.
I love that because, and maybe I'm wrong, but you will forget this. Maybe not. Maybe you won't. And even if you write it down and you have to be reminded later, like we just forget.
Yes.
We just do. And so maybe I won't speak for you. I'll speak for me. I'll forget that story. And unless somebody reminds me of it, or if I remind myself by writing it down and remembering it later, then I'll lose it. And you can't keep all of it in your head all the time. Obviously, you can't carry around this bag of tiny celebrations. But if we miss the opportunity to celebrate, it's not just a reason to celebrate like, oh man, we need this because we need it to help us keep going. But it's when we go out in the community and we present and we're asked all the time, like, what's your success rate? I want to be like, it's complicated.
It is so complicated.
Because how are you measuring? Are you measuring by a woman has never ever had a place where she could feel like she can speak up and she would be heard, or her voice is valuable, and now she's in a place that's not judging her, that's safe, that even though she's surrounded by a lot of people and she lives in community, she actually has found the strength, and she has enough self-confidence, just enough now to speak out and pray before dinner.
Yes.
If you're measuring success that way, then success.
Huge.
Right? If you're measuring success by, well, has she completed XYZ program? Has she risen to the middle class? Has she got married and become, a mother? Does she have a white picket fence? Like, I'm not going to subscribe to that.
No.
And so I'm going to continue to celebrate the prayer before dinner.
That's right. Because for her, this is her story and her journey.
Yeah.
And so to see where she was on day one, and to see where she is now, it's huge, and it's changing her life, and it's changing that trajectory of her life. Whether she leaves tomorrow or stays for another year, there are some things that she's learning and that she's absorbing that are life changing.
Yeah.
So for her to have her voice, and she is one that we have to kind of rein in how she uses her voice.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, she is. She can be very, blunt, and with staff and other residents. So we've had many opportunities to say, it's great that you're voicing how you're feeling, or if you're frustrated about something, but then we're also having opportunities to share. So how could you have said that so that it didn't, maybe hurt this person's feeling? Like another resident. Staff, we just let it roll off our backs. Like, you called me a name. Okay, so how's it different today than it was yesterday? But again, we've seen her grow in that as well, encouraging other residents. And you just don't see her do that very often. So those are huge.
How long has she been there on average? Just before when she got there and when she prayed? How long was that, do you think?
Probably a couple months.
Wow.
Yeah, probably a couple months.
You said something that I think is maybe the most important, maybe not the most important, but really high up there, is that this is her story. And so we do this podcast, and we do RAHAB, and we do public speaking because we're asked to do it and we're invited. But this it's not about us. It's not about, and the Safe House for sure isn't about us. If it was about us, it'd be, we'd be doing a bad job at that, right? Because it's tough. But it's about every single individual woman that comes to move in there and comes to live there. And you guys go to such great lengths to create individualized action plans for those individuals. And so that's why somebody can come in who has no problem finding their voice, but maybe needs it steered into a new direction, and the program is right for them. And you can, at the same time, having somebody who doesn't feel like they have a voice at all, and the program's still right for them, because it's such an individual approach that the staff takes with each woman. That is one of the things that I think is really a difference maker at the Adult Safe House.
Yes.
So when someone comes and moves in, I guess there's a million questions I would want to know about that or ask about that, but what do you find those first, I don't know, few days to be like for that person? And I know it's got to be different for everybody.
It is. Such a broad spectrum of, it kind of depends where they're coming from. Sometimes if they're coming right from the streets.
I'm talking like right from the situation.
Yes, like right literally out of the trauma, out of the trap house, out of living on the streets the day before or that morning and coming. Sometimes there's this sense of just relief and release. Like I have a bed to lay my head on, and sometimes they are just physically and emotionally drained. So they will sleep for days.
Wow.
And we allow that because that's what their body needs. They need to settle. They need to feel safe. Some women are coming from a facility, from jail, or so for them it's like I'm moving from a facility or a program into a home. And so that is a beautiful transition as well. I just heard so many different first reactions from the women.
Yeah.
From them walking through the front door and looking up at the 2-story foyer and just looking at the beauty of the house and just going, wow, I feel blessed, to I don't deserve this.
Oh, wow.
And so it's all of it, you know. They're very self-sacrificing sometimes. They see the beauty of their surroundings, but they're used to the streets. And so there's just this complete opposite surrounding that they find themselves in. Sometimes that's extremely comforting. Sometimes it's downright scary. I've had a resident tell me, and she wasn't there for very long. She says, I know the streets. I'm comfortable there because I know them. I know what to expect. This, I don't know what to expect, and it's scary. And that's a perfect situation where I encouraged her to listen. I love that you even voiced that.
Yeah.
Because that gives me a whole new perspective.
Totally
new perspective. Like,
some people
wow,
would say, like,
I totally
how
get
could
that.
you not like this?
Exactly.
How could this not be safe? Is this not safe? Is this not beautiful? Is this not? But that's then again about
Exactly.
us.
I love when the women share those things because I always want to learn more about their experiences and how they're looking at things.
Yeah.
So for her, I was like, wow. I said, thank you so much for sharing that. And I totally get it.
Yeah.
I said, I totally get it.
It's weird here for me too sometimes.
Yeah. And we don't, we don't always sugarcoat things. Like,
Right.
we know living here is difficult. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter your surroundings.
Yeah.
We know it's difficult. You're not using drugs anymore. You're not using alcohol. You're not numbing anymore. You're going to hard places.
You don't have a cell phone. You don't have a car.
We have to, we're making decisions for you sometimes with certain things. Other things they're making all their own decisions. But there's a like a fine line with that. Sometimes they're like, you guys are controlling. Well, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we have to make those decisions that you might not agree with. But that's, again, where they are when they first get there. There's so many emotions and so many, what have I gotten myself into? And then there's also the, wow, you're not judging me. Like, I walked in here with literally the clothes on my back, and other women are giving me some clothes to wear. Like, staff is, offering me a smile. They're not judging.
Giving me space.
Completely.
Yeah.
Offering me a hot
That must
meal.
be different.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like,
You said they're giving other women are giving them clothes.
oh yeah, I
how
love
is
that.
how do the how does so if there's a group of 5, 6, 7 other women
Mm-hmm.
living in the house and now a new resident moves in,
Yes.
how do they welcome or do they not? Is there this holding on at arm's length? Is there a kind of a help you get settled in kind of
Right.
vibe? Does it differ based on the group that's there?
Yeah. So there's a little bit of everything. Most of the time, I would say most of the women are very welcoming. They remember their first day there.
Yeah.
They remember what that was like. Even if they've been there for a year, they don't forget their first day. And so they're welcoming. They also know that they share part of a story with everybody
Mm.
shares the same story. So they know even if they don't know their story, they know what part of that background is. And
Yeah.
so there's that sisterhood there. Um, there's also the I'm just going to kind of not get too close because there's a good chance you're not going to stay. So there's all of it. All of
Wow.
it. Like, I want to welcome you, make you feel at home. And some women are very good at that because they just want to love on them. Others are like, I'm just going to keep my distance a little bit. I'm going to be super friendly to you. I'm going to offer you, I have an extra sweatshirt you can have, whatever. But relationally, I'm just going to kind of stay at a distance for a little bit because I might get too close to you and you might leave.
And you might leave.
Which happens.
Yeah.
So
It does. And so I know the answer to this, but can you maybe talk a little bit about how women get to the house? Because I think a lot of people will, maybe not, but what I've heard is that people assume that they're placed there or that that since it's a safe house, it's on lockdown.
right.
And our house it's a voluntary program. The women can
Yes.
choose to leave.
Yes.
And even in giving them that choice to leave, that's still almost like part of the program. It's still part of empowering their voice. It's still part of giving
Yes.
them that opportunity to walk away when maybe in their past situations they've not actually been able to leave. And so the offering of, yeah, you can leave if you want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
We would highly, recommend you stay,
Right.
and we would love you to stay, but we can't make that decision for you. And so you've probably watched so many women that you've poured yourself out for and given to
Mm-hmm.
leave. And actually, Alicia, I wasn't leading into this, but she just raved about you on the last podcast and how you are like almost the steadying force for the rest of the staff, even including her, when a woman leaves. And so what's your perspective on that? Can you just speak into that now that I've got you in the chair?
Yeah.
Like what goes through your mind and your body when someone who what they might be walking back to has made a decision to leave the house?
It is the worst. It
Okay.
sucks. I'm just going to tell you that right off the bat. So what's going on internally is not showing up here. I try not to let it. Okay, but let me back up.
So for anybody listening, not watching, she's saying, don't show it on your face. Like you can feel it, but
Yeah.
don't always show it on your
Well,
face.
you know what? Let me back up on that because I cry every single time a resident
That's what she
leaves.
said every time.
And I don't ever want that to change. I want, because I pray about this constantly. Like literally, I take this to the Lord all the time. Like, listen, Lord, I know they're your daughters before we ever see them. Their life on the street or in jail or wherever they're coming from, they belong to you. We get to have them for a period of time. We don't know if it's going to be 2 hours or if it's going to be 2 years and anything in between. So I always have to remember that. And I always have to remember that we get to have an impact on this woman, even if it's a phone call, even if it's here's what we can offer you. You can, all of the things we talked about, the safe house, what you can have here. Just them knowing they have a place to go to sometimes is enough. But when they get to walk through the doors and they get to see and feel like healthy relationships, they get to see a healthy perspective on what love is, not forced, not anything that is inappropriate. They get to experience those things. I want them to like totally get it and be like, go Jesus, before they leave. Well, that's not reality. That's not my reality. I'm
Right.
57 years old and it's taken me 57 years to learn a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I have to rein that into, okay, Lord, you've given them to us for a period of time. And and we see their struggles. We see that they want to go back out and use sometimes. That's one of the main reasons why they leave our relationship, or they've been clean for 3 months and they think they can handle life on their own now. But we can see that they're not ready. We encourage them to stay. Like, remember why you came. Remember your plan for your life.
That's something you say often.
Yes.
Remember your plan for your life.
Yes. Remember the things that you've talked to us about that you want. You want to restore a relationship with your child. You want to get your GED. So let's remember you can have those things. Look how far you've come.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's enough to get them through that next day, that next week. Sometimes they just, I can't do this anymore. I just want to go. I want to numb. Healing is too hard. It's too painful. And, we get that too. So, yeah, I cry. They leave and I cry. But here's what I do. I'm grieving because we want more for them, right? When you care about somebody and you love somebody, you want them to be safe. You just want more for them. And so I have my cry and I rein it in and remember who they belong to.
Yeah.
And I have to as a staff, we do the same thing. Remember, Jesus had them before they got here. We got to have them for a while. They're going to go back out. This is not the end of their story.
Right.
This is one chapter in their life.
Whether they leave here and it's a graduation and a celebration.
Exactly.
Or whether they leave before we would hope they would leave.
Exactly.
It's still a part of their story.
It is a part of their story, regardless.
And it doesn't end there no matter how.
Never.
Right. So
never.
That's good perspective.
Yeah. So I have to keep that perspective, because if I spend too much time thinking about where they're going or what they're walking back into, you can be defeated if you let yourself stay there. Well, that's not what a life following the Lord is about. It's about, look at all of the things that this woman accomplished when she was here.
Yeah.
Look at what she got to experience. Look what she got to participate in. Programming that is literally the best on the planet. And she got to have that for a period of time, however long she decided to stay. And many times when a woman leaves, she comes back. And so that's what we're all about as well.
Yeah.
Second chances, third chances, fourth chances, whatever that looks like.
And so you mentioned earlier that the women that are living in the house when someone new comes in, they know, at least if they don't know anything else about that woman's story, they know at least they share something in common with them from a story perspective, what got them there.
Yes.
And for anybody listening who didn't catch the last podcast, at minute 3, Alicia gives such an awesome explanation of, or definition, I guess that might be a better term, of what is human trafficking. What does it actually look like? You can look up the definition, you can look up the law, you can do all those things, and I would encourage you to do that. But also I would say check out Alicia's explanation of sex trafficking at minute 3 of podcast episode 4. And so these women, that's their story. That's where they're coming from. And a lot of times in most of our programming, the women that we're working with and serving, they don't self-identify. Correct. As being a victim or a survivor of sex trafficking. But correct me if I'm wrong, that's a prerequisite, one of the very few prerequisites to move into Rahab's Adult Safe House, is that sexual exploitation, sex trafficking has to be part of their story. Yes. And so is that something that these women learn before they come in? Do they know that that's what this house is for? Is that a conversation that you have with them? And if so, what is that like? Like, right. Are they coming to almost maybe understand for the first time that they've been a victim of something that they maybe didn't even have a name for yet?
Right. I think most of them understand that they've been sexually exploited.
Got it.
So... And
so tying that to this terminology is not a far jump for a lot of them. Okay.
So it's not like we're saying, have you been sex trafficked because they're like, what? But sexual exploitation, they get that. They understand
And
that
someone
their
has
body has
benefited
been
off
used.
of them in
Yes.
that way.
Yes.
And that this house is for that.
Yes. Yes. And so the safe house is exclusively for women that are either currently being trafficked or exploited or have it in their past, because that is a very complex, this type of trauma is so complex. All of the things that our women get to walk through to heal from that trauma is amazing. So with the mental health aspect, the the drug and alcohol programming, the trauma, we have the best trauma programming that I've ever seen. So all of it works together to heal
And
this.
you're touching on something that I think is really important, and that I find our speakers at RAHAB saying more often lately, is because it helps everybody, I think, get this. Because when we talk in a room like this, or when we do like a HT 101, human trafficking 101 type talk, it could tend to be very black and white. This is the definition. This is what it is. This is what it isn't. This, all that kind of stuff. And then, but in the room, it might be black and white. But once you walk out the doors, everything is gray. Like, it's not this clean cut, super clear lines on the streets or in these situations. And so when a better way that I've found to help a group of people be like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, is that when a woman comes to the safe house, and this is really the reason why RAHAB's adult safe house has to be specifically for this population, and that overflow beds at different kind of shelters won't serve the women as best as they should be served, or how we believe they should be served, or how they could actually be provided hope and walk through healing. The reason why it's specialized for these women is because at the center is say a person who's experiencing or a victim of sex trafficking. But what feeds into that is all those things you just mentioned, right? They're also in domestic violence, relationship or intimate partner violence, right? They're also oftentimes suffering from mental health, or self-harm. They're also a lot of times using drugs, using alcohol, right? They're oftentimes a lot of these things that they're going through. And so if you would think there are programs specifically for drug and alcohol, there are programs specifically for intimate partner violence, there are programs specifically for mental health, right? And so to kind of bring all of those together, that's why we feel so strongly that the programming has to be fine-tuned for the women that we get to serve.
Right.
And so I think that when you can kind of almost draw this map with all these different things around someone in the middle, they need specialized programming. Do. And why not? Like, why should they not have that offered to them? And that's why if they're put in maybe something just for, say, drug and alcohol, they may seem like a failure because we're not addressing the whole person. We're not addressing the whole story.
That's what I love. That what we do, we know that it is all of the things. We know it is their emotional health, their spiritual growth, their trauma, the drug addiction, the mental health aspect. I always go back, and I just believe that this is a gift from the Lord, that He has given me, like our team, this ability to see each woman that comes through the door as this just unique creation. Okay, so and I always see her as a little girl every single time, because we know that it takes 3 components to have a victim of trafficking: the vulnerable person, the buyer, and somebody that's going to exploit that. Okay,
right.
So, but I just always go to that vulnerable person. And so you have this woman that comes in the adult safe house, and every single woman that has ever come through our doors at the adult safe house has sexual abuse in her past, either as a child or as a teenager. So you have this vulnerable person that has been sexually abused, neglected, all of those things. And then she grows up and is an easy victim to a trafficker and to a multitude of other things, drugs, alcohol, whatever. So until we deal with the trauma, until we start to address the traumatic things that have happened to her as a child in her life of trafficking, we could send her to IOP, drug and alcohol counseling. We could send her there every year. You have to get to the root of the issue.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about our programming is we're going to talk about the trauma. We're going to go there. We're going to heal from the trauma. We're also going to take care of the mental health aspect, and we're going to handle, we're going to take care of the drug and alcohol. It's all together.
We're going to pray for you all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it is, I think that's one of the most eye-opening things for me being there for a year and a half in this role is that every single woman that comes through is just her own like fascinating puzzle, and for her maybe a mental health aspect is a big part of her story, and other things kind of fell into place because of that. Other times the sexual abuse was so prevalent that then drugs became an issue to cope. All of this stuff. So that's what I love about our programming as well, is that you had mentioned before, it's very unique to each individual that comes through the doors. What do they need to get through their healing? What is the drug and alcohol piece a huge piece for them? Is it the mental health piece? It's just so complex. And it's fascinating. It's just absolutely fascinating. And then there's like the slow, like I just love to observe. So a woman will come in with all of the things, and then as she's going through her trauma therapy and addressing things, then you can start to see the light bulb come on, and then she's able to handle triggers for drug and alcohol addiction because she's dealing with what caused her to use those things to cover up anyways. So, and that pace is different for every woman. That's the other thing I love about what we do. They can stay there as long as they need to. We've got a couple residents that are like, I think they're going to be with us a long time. And that is okay. Like, I love that. You know what? Healing, it happens at your pace. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. This is a place to rest. This is a place to work on the things that you need to work on so that you can have the kind of life that you want to have once you leave. So,
well, I think that a lot of that has to do with not really just RAHAB, but also the culture that you bring to RAHAB because of the way that you are built and that you're wired. Like you are viewing every single person as an individual. Yes. You are not grouping them and making assumptions based on whatever. You are not, you are choosing to see them as that vulnerable girl. Mm-hmm. That's just how you're wired. And so when you bring that as a director, as the boss out there, your staff, it's easy, trust me, it's easy for a staff to follow somebody who's living that way. I remember working for Becky when there was barely anybody working at RAHAB, and just she operates in such a level of faith. Like she was living in such a place of faith that was way beyond where my faith was at, at the time, and probably is now still, but she required you to be, like she almost pulled you up because of her level of faith, because of she had history with the Lord. She had history doing this type of work. She had history. She knew the things that I didn't walk through. And so she could almost pull you in. And if you weren't willing to go there, you weren't going to last very long. Right. And so the boss, if you would, or the leader or the director or the supervisor, or whoever you want to, whatever word you want to use for that, when that person is living in a place of faith, in a place of surrender and sacrificial love for the people that we serve, it makes it easier for the people under you to go there, because you're almost pulling them with you. And so
Right.
I don't know if you feel that pull, maybe you don't, but I wanted you to know that helps. It helps other people get to a level that they haven't been to before.
Thank you. So I have to give like all of the credit to Jesus, of course.
I thought you were going to say Alicia. No, I'm
Well,
joking.
no,
I'm joking.
Alicia,
I'm joking.
Jesus, and then Alicia. So, yeah, I have learned so much from Alicia. Like I tell her this like every week, and I tell everybody that I talk to, I have learned so much from her.
Uh-huh.
She's just a phenomenal leader. She gets our women. I have learned so much from her. But I think like my story is that the Lord has been faithful. And when I felt invisible, he told me I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so, and he's brought me through healing. So I know, and he's pursued after me. And because that's who he is.
Yes.
So I know he's going to do that for our women. But their story is going to look different. Like everybody's story is going to look different. But I know because he's faithful and he's a pursuer that he's not going to give up on that woman that goes back out into the streets, because that's what she knows, and she just can't do the safe house anymore. I want to go back out to what I know. And I know that he doesn't give up. You know, as long as there's breath in our lungs, there's always that chance.
And so we, as an organization, we as a staff, we as a safe house, that's why we don't give up. That's why we have the second, third, fourth, fifth chance. If there's a bed available and you say, wow, I should not have left, I want to come back. That's why our doors are open to you. That's why when you come back the second time, your name will be written on the welcome sign. Welcome home.
Yeah.
Your name, right? That's because you can tell people about Jesus, and that is good. But when you actually choose to try to be like him, or try to model or tell them through how you live, I think that's a disconnect that I think turns so many people off, is that you're telling me about a religion, you're telling me about a God, you're telling me about, a way that he is, his character, personality, but you are not doing that.
Yes.
And everything I see around me is nobody doing that. And none of us are doing it perfect.
Right.
By far. But if we can build our program to model how he's going to welcome them back, or how he's going to continue to pursue them, then that's what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Right? Like because that's where we believe the hope really lies. It's where we believe, and that's what gets me excited. It's what gets me fired up. And so you said, so I guess you said you've been at the Safe House for 1.5 years.
As the director.
Yeah,
I started out as weekend staff.
I know. And so so when you heard about Rahab's Safe House, what was it? What, like, if you were building it in your mind, like, did you have any expectations of it? What were your thoughts about the house before you ever saw it? Or
the first thing I thought of was, because I just love to have like ongoing relationships.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, oh, I get to go hang out with those women and like get to know them and see them once a month and just like love on them, So I was like all about that.
Did you think it was like a beautiful home, or did you think it was like a facility, or you heard okay.
Yeah, so I just didn't know what to expect, but seeing it for the first time, I was just blown away.
And so you were coming out to work weekends to cover most of the weekends.
Yeah.
And then at that time it was just one person on the weekends.
Yeah,
is it still that way?
Yes, it is. One person on the weekends.
And so that was cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I loved it. I still love it. When I get time, just me and the women at the house, even now, I absolutely love it.
And so what will you do
then?
Yeah.
Oh geez, we would do like, we would do like devotions. It would always be fun to do a devotion.
Or even now, I mean, like, just when you get time one-on-one, like, so.
I just want to talk. I just want to hear them talk. I just want to, let's sit down and watch a movie. Let's just chill. I don't know.
Let's be together.
There's no busyness going on around me. The house is peaceful. They're at peace. It's just super chill. You're sitting on the couch in the living room with the beautiful scenery outside, the beautiful fireplace, and you're just chilling just like you would with a friend and just having a conversation. Everything from, what your day was like to like a memory that they want to share with you. So
Isn't that like,
I love it.
I don't know if you do this, but I don't, when I'm in, especially here in the office, like I'm just grinding the administrative responsibilities.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
But do you take the time to almost like step outside of all that and think, how surreal is this? Like if you're able to sit and talk with somebody and actually have a relationship with someone who's been through such torture, such like immense pain, torn, like their identity torn to shreds.
Right.
And then they get to come to a place that, this isn't like my big Rahab commercial, but like that they get to go there and then you get to actually know them and to be part of their story. And when they leave and you don't hear from them for, it could be years, that
Right.
that they still remember you.
Yeah.
Isn't that surreal? Like, is that?
It is. It's such a privilege. Like I literally think of it. It's just a real privilege. All of us on staff there see it that way. That we get the opportunity and the privilege to pour into these women and to have that relationship. It's a gift. I don't know how else to put it. It's just literally a gift. And like just the weird how the Lord places people together, for such a time as this. Like why are certain residents there at the same time?
Oh, wow.
And others come and go and yeah, it's just wild.
So you got a good group right now that's there, that's been there,
Yeah.
like looks like they're locked in, huh? For the most part.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Hey, like I love this place. The next day, I'm out. I'm peacing out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
That's fair.
yeah.
What's the hardest part?
Oh, the hardest part is, for me personally, is when they leave. That still is the hardest part for me. It's hard.
Do you ever find yourself trying to hold that weight? Like, do you ever find yourself like in your own head, like feeling like you failed or?
Oh yeah. So, and as a staff, when somebody leaves, we always want to look at, did we serve them well? Were there things that we could have done differently? So we do go there.
Yeah.
Because we
You
have to. We have to go there. But then always we have to extend grace to each other. We have to extend, remember what the Lord did while they were there, all of those things. But, oh yeah, I'm constantly like, oh man, we have to change this piece or we have to do this. And my first reaction is what could we have said to make her stay? And then the Lord's like tapping me on the shoulder, Elaine, that's not how it works sometimes. So it's like,
is that how he talks to you?
Yeah.
Elaine.
Sometimes he's like, Elaine, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
It's not that simple.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I get it. There's that protector of me that comes out that I want them to stay safe. I don't want any more harm to come to them. I don't, all of those things that we want for the people that we care about. And, but one of the life lessons that the Lord has taught me is, a person's journey is their journey, and the Lord's with them every step of the way. And so sometimes people need to do what they need to do for him to be able to work his magic on them. You know what I mean? Like for them to learn those hard lessons, because how else do we learn sometimes?
Right.
Sometimes we have to learn things in a difficult way.
Yeah.
I know I have.
Me too.
Yeah, many times.
So the weekends weren't always all peachy, right? Like there was probably some rough times on those weekends.
Oh yeah, there were times.
I'm not asking you to dig into it, but like it wasn't all easy, right?
Oh no.
On the weekends, but then you still came to work for Rahab.
I did, because there'd be times like, oh, you guys aren't getting rid of me this fast or this easy. Oh yeah, I like say that out loud. Oh, it's like 2 times I set the alarm off, because I just set the alarm off.
Oh, that's standard protocol. Like that's
Yeah,
standard.
because I'm like, they're going to fire me. Alicia's like, no, you have
Yeah.
pretty good job security here because you're weekend staff. So, yeah, I don't give up on people. I just don't. I just never have. And so if a resident is having an issue with, or she's acting out in a negative way, like towards me as a person, or it's never about me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean by that.
Yes.
It's not. It's about there's an underlying wound somewhere. So if I'm triggering something in her, or she's just having a bad day, I have to be able to like distance myself from that and just get to the root of the issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard there. Our relationships are hard. They're challenging. You don't always know what they're thinking and what's going on in their heads, but you get to have a conversation with them and find out if they want to share it with you.
Yeah.
And you get to build some trust with them.
Did you ever think you'd be running the house?
Absolutely not. And I was struggling with that for a hot minute. Like, Jesus, what are you thinking? And he made it very clear that this was where I was supposed to be. And because it's so big, it's so complex, and all of those things that you tell yourselves, am I good enough to do this? Am I equipped? And Jesus would say, this isn't about you. This is where I've placed you. And I have a purpose for
I love that. It's not like, yes, you are, you can do it. It's like, it ain't even about you. Like, what? Like, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't, because then the glory's all on me if I can do it.
Yeah.
And Greg, like my prayer life and how to like manage spiritual warfare has never been like it's been in the last year and a half. Like, I never even knew what spiritual warfare was until I started working in this job. But it took me like a week to realize, okay, I can't do this job without prayer. I can't do this job without like just my relationship with the Lord just going deeper. And so that's what he wants all of us to do. It's not just me. He's like, he wants all of us to be there.
Well, this is, okay, so as much as we spent all this time, almost, oh my gosh, punching this microphone. Sorry, everybody. Like, we spent all this time talking about this program, talking about how this is all about the women's story, and it's not about us. But to the Lord, he sees you like that, Elaine. Like,
yes.
This is all, like, you're on your own journey. Your journey is your journey. Their journey's not your journey, but your journey is your journey. And this is a part of that. And so that it's not that you're not valuable. You're not the star of those women's story, right? But you get to be in your own journey, in your own story. And so he's called you here.
Yes.
And it's been so clear. I remember when we were in the office, our basement, when we were in the cellar office.
The basement.
It was called, I think our suite was LL1, which was lower level 1, which is kind of like a glamorous way to say that. Your office is in the basement. And so I remember getting a phone call, and it was just one office room, one big room, and it was, I think Rachel and I were in there at the time, just Rachel and I, maybe Beth was there too, but I like rolled my chair over and grabbed the phone, and it was you, and you were, I don't remember what I think you were calling in about either weekend work or responding to, first kind of few conversations had with Rahab. And I remember Rachel and this is just Rachel, she's just amazing, just almost exploding like on the other side of the room, because she was just so excited because she loved you so much, and she just raved about you. Like that, like she just knew you and knew how perfect you would be in the role, and was just so excited for Elaine this, Elaine that, Elaine this, Elaine that, and that has continued.
Wow.
So
yeah,
I know that it's hard. I know that I don't know. I know that it's hard, but I don't actually know, because I haven't walked through what you've walked through, and I haven't actually been there when a woman leaves. I haven't actually been there when the place is freaking out. I haven't been there. Well, I haven't been there in a very long time where we haven't had, or haven't been responsible for the schedule to make sure that the adequate care and staffing is there. I haven't had to hold that for a really long time, and I've never had to hold it to the degree that you have. And so the fact that you're able to do that and still be Elaine, and still show up and be funny and just bring the hope and have the right perspective is just such evidence for you're that person
Thank
that
you.
God called you for that job. And so I don't think it's the end. I don't think that that's where you'll always be.
Right.
But
As long as he has me there, that's where I'm staying.
yeah.
Yep.
But
I love it.
more,
I love it.
new levels,
Mm-hmm.
more. But we want to go to more yet. So what's as we're kind of coming into the strong close here. Let me know about one thing or a couple things that you've learned from the women, or maybe even learned about yourself from working with the women.
So one of the situations that was kind of early on, I'd say the first 6 months I was there, we had a resident that we had to ask to leave. And that was because of a rule that it was a situation she had to go, unfortunately. And so Angel was at the adult safe house then, and I'm just looking at Angel with big eyes like, help me walk through this. And she handled it so beautifully. We were all on the same page as a team of how this was going to play out. And just the heartbreaking situation of telling her that she had to go. And she knew she had to because of what she had done. Then came us finding a bed for her. And there was a place that they called, and they're like, yeah, we have a bed, so we were, and the lady made the comment like, yeah, we have a mat for you. And so the weight of that just washed over me so heavily that I had to get up and leave the room and go cry in the closet, because this is where my mind went. She is living in this beautiful home. She has a bed to sleep in, a bed that's her own, her stuff. And so
She's choosing a mat.
She's choosing the mat. But then the Lord did a couple things with that. He's like, well, I'm preparing a room for her that's going to be far more beautiful than that. So this is her journey right now. And the other thing is like, how many times have I chosen the mat?
Wow.
Like, Elaine, you've chosen the mat many times whenever you're not waiting for the Lord, when you're moving ahead too quickly. I choose the mat too. So that was one of the most impactful things. I'll probably never forget that, and the impact that it had on me. But the other thing, the women, they are fighters. They are, when I hear their stories and some of the things that they have gone through, they're fighters. And in that, I see how the Lord sustains life.
Wow.
Because sometimes when I hear their stories, or I hear how deep their drug addiction is, I'm like, how does their body?
How are you alive?
Yes.
Wow.
How are you literally alive? And so that her story's not over.
Yeah.
She's alive. The Lord's kept her alive. Her story's not over. So just it's so complex and so big that sometimes I don't have the words. Like the determination and the pursuing that the Lord has for that woman, that she is alive, and as all those things that she's suffered. And then her determination that even with all of it, she still finds her life valuable because she's fighting. She's fighting to stay alive. Like, I don't know. It's just so big.
Wow.
And I have so much admiration for them. So much admiration.
So you see that they're fighters.
Yeah.
And you identify that sometimes we all choose the mat.
Yes.
That is a powerful story. So it just rocked you. You got up, you walked out of the room, you cried in the closet, and then
I did. I came
came
back and I'm like, as the Lord was like, boom, right off the bat.
You said it was the first week you were there?
No, it was like the first several months.
Okay.
Like the first several months, yeah. Yeah, that was really impactful.
And so over the course of this conversation, we've both kind of raved about the program. Like, let's not lie.
Right.
And You, I think, even said at one point, like, the best on the planet. And so,
Yep.
and so I guess, like, if somebody's listening to this and they're not in our area, or they're in some other state or some other country even, like, why should they care about the work that's being done with a relatively small group of women in Northeast Ohio? Like, do you know, like, if you were talking to somebody who was not in our community or
Right.
or whatever, like, why should they care about the work that's being done here?
Right. Because I think that what we're doing is life changing. So therefore, it's going to be community changing and world changing.
Come on.
So this woman gets to go through healing. Okay, it's going to affect her children, her relationships with her family, future relationships that she has. A healed person then can affect positively those other people around them.
Yeah.
So even though our safe house, considering the magnitude of trafficking, and we have a small number, like that one woman is worth it.
Yeah.
The Lord said, I was worth it and you
Yep.
were worth it. So she's worth it. It's worth it for her to have the healing that she needs, because that's going to positively influence her life and everybody around her. So it just keeps going and keeps going. And I just feel that the programming that we have, like Alicia is an absolute genius in understanding what a woman needs to heal from sexual exploitation.
Yeah.
And all of those pieces are in place. The art therapy, the equine therapy, the group therapies, individual, the aerial yoga, dance therapy, like everything. It's... Did I answer that question well? Did I answer that question?
Totally.
Okay.
I mean, I asked why you're just getting jazzed about the program again. That's cool.
I do.
That's
I
right.
You know, another thing is we had a woman that came from out of state, and she was with us for a couple of months, and she just wanted to go back to her home state, you know. And as heartbreaking as that was, because we knew it was too soon for her to go. Like, oh, it's okay. She did have a place that she found that had a bed for her, that was going to hold it for her. And so when this resident told them the type of programming that we did, they were like, stay as long as you can. There just aren't places like that out there that are offering you all of it.
They're like, you might want to stick around there a little longer.
Yeah, you know, and she did for a little while, which was good.
Well, on that, actually, I can't imagine who might be listening to this, but if you're listening to this and you're either you or you know somebody in your family or in a community that you're part of, that as you've been listening to Elaine talk, you're like, wow, that actually might be this person's story, and I'd love to get them connected with RAHAB. Elaine, how can somebody refer? Or maybe you work for an organization that is serving a woman who this is their story, and they need to get into this program. How can somebody refer to the Adult Safe House?
Typically, they can... I'm not going to give my cell phone number over the podcast.
That's not what I'm doing.
No, but...
just hit up RAHAB in general. Just hit up
RAHAB, call the office. I will get that text or email saying that somebody needs to be followed up with. Depending on the situation, a person can just go to the drop-in center as well and connect that way.
Okay.
We get all kinds of phone calls all the time.
All right.
From people. I need information about somebody I know that is being trafficked, and then it's usually me or a caseworker will call and follow up, and have that conversation with her, and just kind of get her story if she's willing to share, and kind of tell her about what we do.
Cool.
So, yep.
And also, if you're listening and you're just listening to Elaine talk and you're just like, man, this woman's amazing, I just want to hear more from her, and maybe you're part of a small group or a community group, one of the things I think is so special about RAHAB and our employees is that almost all of our employees are actually doing the work with the women. They're actually so Elaine is actually in the house. She's in the safe house. Almost all of her hours at RAHAB, they're spent with the women in the house. But we can, she sometimes will step away from that to speak to a small group, to connect with some other different community or programs in the community. And so if you if you want to reach out and request a speaker from Rahab, whether it's Elaine or it's me or it's someone else on staff, you could do that through our contact tab on our website. Our website, again, is just rahab-ministries.org, and you can go to the contact, and I think there's a tab that actually says request a speaker, and there's a short form there to have a speaker for your event. We'd love to connect with any kind of other program or service providers in the community that there might be some opportunity to partner. If you're in a different state and you're thinking, wow, we're doing something similar, or you feel like you can actually add something to our program, or we could add something to yours, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to get on the phone. We'd drive out and meet you, or have you out here to meet with us. I know that there are people who are doing amazing work in this field, and we'd love to connect with you. We'd love to learn more. We'd love to see how we can partner together to provide this same amazing care and support for even more women and even more children. Again, as we wrap this up, we are going to be celebrating the Adult Safe House all month. It's not just this podcast. So jump over to our website, to Facebook, to Instagram, and check out the Multiply Hope celebration all month. We're going to be telling stories and celebrating the Adult Safe House and the amazing work that God's doing there. So stay tuned for that. Share this podcast with anyone who you think it would impact. And if you are listening and identifying with any part of this, even if the whole sexual exploitation piece is not something you identify with, there's truths that everybody connects with in here about your voice being heard, about your journey being your journey, about your story not being over yet, about the value in being a fighter, in all of that. And so I hope you were encouraged by this. I hope that you feel connected to Rahab even more by listening to this. And if you want to get involved as a volunteer, if you want to be a monthly giver, then please don't hesitate to reach out. I just want to thank you again, Elaine, I know, like I said, you're on. This phone is like ringing every single time we do a podcast.
You're popular, Greg.
Man, I got to get that checked out for next time. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I just said that you're in the work, you're in the house. You carved out time from the house to do this, and so I just want to say thank you for carving out the hour.
Thank you for having me.
Totally.
It was fun. It was fun. I love this.
All right, we'll run it back next week then.
Okay, don't go too far.
All right, thanks, Elaine.
Thank you, Greg.
No problem.